Can everybody hear me okay? Yep, all right. Cool, thank you for Luke, the Tech Circus team. We've heard a lot today. And one of the things that stuck with me that I heard early on this morning when Andy was talking is about the idea of designing in multiple contexts, right? He talked about all these different ways in which designers have had to adapt over time, whether we're designing for artificial intelligence or I love that he threw like a Web 2.0 reference in there. I was almost like, man, I miss gradients and bright buttons, like, right? Like, we have this world where we work in where technology moves at a pace that's really hard to keep up with us, even for us as designers understanding the responsibility of the task before us. But then if you look at the other side of that coin and understand the goals that the organizations and the companies and the clients that we're working with are trying to meet, especially as the needs of the consumer are getting heightened and their understanding and their capability because they're getting used to using technology. They're getting used to tapping things. They're getting used to, having these cylindrical objects in their kitchen speak to them about recipes and play their favorite songs while they cook dinner. So companies are now feeling the burden of being in front and staying ahead. And if we're not careful, what I've found is that most organizations find a solution or a space they want to work in, and especially the larger organizations, or even startups with tons of funding, they grab that big wad of cash and they throw it at it. Let's throw money at this thing. We'll buy this really expensive tech stack and we'll go look on whatever site we can and we'll hire the most rock star design talent we can to accomplish this goal. And when I think about that, that starts to make a little bit of sense. All right, we want good tech, we want good designers. But the reality is you can get the best of what you think your money's buying you, but if you put it into an environment that's not set up for those people to be successful, then you're not going to go anywhere. And you're actually going to see less than a return on investment. The only return you're going to get is frustration, fragmentation, bad culture, lots of turnover and headcount, right? Because it's not headcount, it's people. It's not resources, it's people. And so when we start to think about that, this is right. Maybe we should try to invest in the best things that we need. But that's already what everyone else is doing. So what's going to be our competitive differentiators, organizations and teams that want to build and deploy successful products, successful services, solutions for things that matter? Well, I think actually it's going to start being how we lead our people. And I'm super thankful that I actually got slotted in like 2 to 3 talks after the leadership panel because they made my job so much easier, right? They all had so many great insights about what it is to create space for people to do their best work. And that's what I want to dive into today at a very high level and start to think about what that means. I wouldn't say that we base our business model on creating great teams, but when we understand to achieve the goals set by the business model by creating a space for teams to do their best work, the cool thing about that is that a new technology will come out because it does, right? We were on, we went .NET, now we're on React or Angular and React, and now we were designing with Photoshop 4, and now we're designing with Sketch, and then with InVision, and now with Figma, and with Framer. The technology and the space always changes. But there's usually one consistent thing so far, because Skynet's not aware and the Terminator's not here. We still need people to do this work, right? At least for now. So let's all be safe in that until we have to figure out how to become cyborgs to do the rest. So if we actually start to invest in the people first, I don't think it matters. The tech can be shit. Teams who are set up to be successful will find a way. And even if that finding a way means that they're convincing the organization to get better tech, right? But when they are set up to do that, you're not going to have as much turnover. These teams are going to see the constraints and the frustrations, and not to dismiss what they are, because they're frustrating, we get that. I understand that. But they're going to start to see those as opportunity spaces to show the value of what they do. Because we constantly, and when I say we, I usually mean me, so I'll just go back to saying me. I've been guilty multiple times. We asked what the thing you wish you knew on the panel when you were younger is don't be so fucking precious about your work, right? We are a precious bunch, gang, which in some senses I love that. You are all precious. You're fucking beautiful. But at the same time, when we're so precious about the things we're doing that it has to be handed to us in a certain way in order for us to be successful, then our shine goes away real fast in the organization. The executives look at this as excuses, not opportunities. And so it's our job as leaders, it's my job as a leader to set a tone for those that I work with and work for and who report into me, to set an environment where they feel like they don't have to be precious to be noticed, that they can show up as themselves and do their best work. That being said, how do we do that, right? How can we create a foundation? Because it's really easy for me to stand up here and say, create a really good environment for your team. That's a good idea. And you're like, thanks, dude. Now what, right? So how do we figure that out, right? Well, I think successful leaders allow their teams to take informed risks and make mistakes and learn from them. Do you know what word's not in this? Failure. Because I'm not a big mantra of the fail fast thing. It's just another one of those like buzzy kind of catchphrases that really in my world, that's a big excuse for mediocrity, really. And even bigger than that, that's just some other kind of rant for another talk at a different event. But what I really think, though, is that failure is an end state. Just like my slides did not fail right now, they'll be back soon. See? It's not an end state. Yeah, things won't work. When something has failed, like if your heart has failed, that's pretty close to an end state, right? When we encourage risk-taking that's informed, educated guesses from insights, and things don't work out, those are learning opportunities. That's good. That's the environment I want to set up for my team. I don't want to tell them to go fail fast and fail often, because when the business sees them fail 6 times in a row, we probably are not going to have a job anymore. So I want them to make educated guesses and learn and try things. But I also can provide a sense of guidance, a sense of rails for them to work within so that they actually feel comfortable taking a risk. Because as a leader, if I tell my team to go fail fast and fail often, or as I'm saying, take these risks, they're worried it's not going to work out. So I need to create a space where they feel comfortable to say, like, hey, I want to try this new thing. What does that look like? Well, then I can turn around and say, okay, you know what? Why don't we try doing it this way? We'll do these smaller measured experiments. Here's what I'd like to see, and keep reporting back to me as time goes on, and we'll figure out the progress of where this is going. That, to me, seems like I'm setting someone up so much easier to take some of these educated guesses and move things forward, as opposed to saying, go do whatever you want. When you fail along the way, let me know. And to do that, though, we have to create psychologically safe environments. And we've heard this. Andy's talk in the morning talked a lot about this. We've heard it throughout the day. We heard it on the leadership panel in some of the varying talks. And the Google did their whole, their whole study with Project Aristotle. And more than anything else, psychological safety was critical to making a team work. Have you ever had to make a decision where you were so nervous because you were worried about the impact? I mean, every single one of us in this room starts the day worrying about what other people think about us as it is. That's just a proven human fact. But then and that could be with our family, our friends. I mean, God, our cats are pissed off at us all the damn time, right? Then we go to work, and I'm expected to take a risk and move a project forward. I'm so nervous that I'm going to be seen as a fraud, that my peers in the design team are going to see that maybe I don't know those things, or that I'm the one designer on the team who doesn't have 3 master's degrees. Or that and this is actually true, I'm the one designer managing the people with 3 master's degrees and 0 education myself. These are the things that already are all swirling around in our minds from day to day. A way we can do as managers and as leaders is to help create psychological safety to reduce that swirl, and let these teams know that they can have the opportunity to do the work that they really feel like they should be doing. And it's so much easier to execute when you're not worried every minute about how this might fail or how someone would perceive it. I would also say this. No matter what I say up here, I would like you to just take this one slide back, even if you have to take it back to your leader. Those who are poorly led, micromanaged, and not challenged, like held to low standards, you are guaranteeing that they will underperform if this is how you approach your work as a leader. Micromanaging is so hard not to do, especially when you're making that transition from being a designer to a design leader, and you start to see one of your designers execute on a design maybe in the way that you wouldn't do it, and there's that moment where you're like, you should, fuck, I gotta just let this go, I gotta let this go, because really what you want is the outcome in the end. And if they don't get there on the same path that you would normally take, that's quite all right, as long as the outcome and the goals are being met, right? How diverse can you make a team when they have to do every little thing that you would want them to do? or do it the exact way you would do it. All you're making are smaller versions of yourself, which is probably not a good idea. I mean, you're you. There's only one of you. You don't need a bunch of you. And Paul J. Zak did this really interesting about the neuroscience of trust, because once we start to have psychological safety and we don't micromanage our teams and we give them challenging things to work on, we build trust. And trust is not you and me agreeing a bunch of times on the same things, so now I know I can trust you. Trust is me having interactions with you over time that lead me to believe that you have my best interests at heart. Now that's what a design leader should be focusing on. I heard up here on the panel, like, yeah, I haven't designed anything in a long time, right? We're designing teams now. That's right. We're designing for trust as leaders. Every effort we make and step forward in the work we do should be towards a goal of building trust within our teams and extending that to our partner teams so that they're doing that with their teams, so that our teams and their teams work together from a position of trust. Look at this, 74% less stress, 106% more energy, 50% higher productivity, 13% fewer sick days, 7% more engagement, some other percents. For me, this sounds like really good, right? And this comes from an environment where trust is high. Trust doesn't mean perfection. It's a general understanding that you do have my best interests at heart, even if things go wrong, because we can't always control our surroundings and our environments. So if I take group emotional intelligence, right, and once I have that, I can start to build trust. My team has an identity within itself and with its partners, which means then we have efficacy in our work because we're working together better, less politics, less bullshit meetings, we're executing, we're trusting one another. Then that means better participation, cooperation, and collaboration. I feel like this is a really good path, y'all. Like, this is good. Which means better decisions, more creative solutions, higher productivity. Holy shit, like for 1995, you can have all these things, right? Oh, I forgot. Andy told me you have to point it this way. Right? It's for the big reveal, don't worry. What do you think the business thinks, especially about like this last line? That's what they want, right? Because as much as I talk about all this Dr. Phil bullshit up here, businesses make money. And they want us to be working on things that increase revenue or drive savings. But then I look at what the importance of these things are. I believe that like being an emotionally intelligent leader is really fucking good for business if that's what it does. And this is the message we need to bring back to our teams and to our leaders and to our partners, is that if we act in this way, not only do we just feel better and have all those percentages of less stress and all those kinds of things going on, but we can actually drive more impact to the business because teams are partnering together better and our teams are working more efficiently. So like, that's shit the business cares about. And when we talk about what it means to be a supportive leader who creates an environment for their teams, and we tie it to the fact that our teams are increasing in their productivity and partnering together over time, they'll start to grasp that. Probably not right away, but over time. But to do that, though, and when you are an emotionally intelligent leader, you can create a shared vision for your team that promotes autonomy and execution. Because guess what? They trust you. They trust me. And if we start thinking about this, and I'm talking this about leading our teams now, but there's a whole side of this and where we talk about doing this with our partners as well. The trust is there. We can start having shared vision, not just in design, but design and product and development and marketing and business analysts and whomever, product, pick it, right? But I really think this is important for us as leaders to empower our team to do that work, especially when we're trying to avoid being a micromanaging type leader. If we create a team vision, that gives the team autonomy to execute upon that when they have to make decisions, right? If we can share our expectations and what we're looking for out of our teams in a way that they have a clear and crisp understanding that we share with them so we both know what each other means, then they can go forth. They can be in a meeting and have to make a judgment call and not say, hold on, I got to go ping Ron before I do this thing, so I want to make this call. No, this is our vision. And I believe the decision I'm making aligns to our vision because of this. They can make a decision. They can come back and share learnings. With those learnings, we can then turn around and enforce or adjust our process to better support them. Clear objectives, right? Man. Let's let the team know where we want to go. We're heading this way. This is what we need to do, right? Here's how I think with your capabilities and what you do as an individual on this team, what you bring to this team, here's how I think you can contribute to all of us getting there. Let me know how I can support you getting there. So it's more of like, hey, let's all go together, not follow me. I'm going over here. Because when you say follow me, that means you're asking someone to do the things you do, which sometimes might be the right call, but it's not always. And position our leads and teams to be connected to a singular guiding purpose, right? That's really important. Because if we start setting up an environment, like I'm saying, where we want team members to have a little bit of autonomy to make decisions, what happens when different team members on different teams start making their autonomous decisions out of sync with one another? Then we get everybody's going every which direction, right? And we're in the position of like herding cats. And if you ever had to try to get a cat to do anything, you know that that's really herding cats is not a thing that actually happens. And when team members need to make decisions, we can draw those connection points for them to connect with one another to understand how to better make those decisions. So just a few points on a good team vision. It's ideal. It conveys a compelling picture of a future, but with a sense of what's possible. It's values-oriented. It's inspirational. Like, it's shit you want people to rally behind. You don't want to create a team vision. People are like, dude, that's fucking lame. Like, I don't want to do that work at all, right? Like, these are none of the things I believe in. Like, I don't want that. It's focused, and it's clear enough to guide decision-making. I think that is so key. But it's also flexible, right? Because if you've ever worked in an enterprise or an organization, or shit, I'm probably this way in startups as well, things change. And what's that saying? The only consistent thing is change or whatever. Like, shit changes all the time. And what ends up happening is if you don't want to have to rewrite your vision every 3 months. You want to write something that's flexible enough to adapt. And when you center your vision in the people and how you want to impact the business, usually some of the goals and the things can change and your vision can primarily stay the same. And of course, it's communicable, right? Like, you want to be able to share your vision, or anyone on your team to be able to share that vision with anyone at any point in time very succinctly. I can be a very verbose designer, so I put that last one in there for me. I think it's one of my favorite quotes from Chris Fussell. I have 2 of them in this deck, one here, summing up what this team vision is and how we want to be in being a leader to the people we work with. And I should also qualify the fact that I believe a leader does not always have to have direct reports. A leader is anyone who's just trying to move something forward and drive impact. Teach your team how to think instead of telling them what to do. Here's how we want to approach these situations. Here's the things we want to wrap our heads around. This is our mental model as a group. This is our vision. Now, I'm excited because each one of you team members is different, and you're going to approach this work in your specific way, which is why you have the damn job, by the way. We hired you because we thought you were good for this. So, hey, shit, why don't we let you do that? And I'm going to get out of your way and empower you. And with a shared vision, it becomes much easier to increase team communication and collaboration. Because we always want a goddamn seat at the table, and we always want to work better with our partners, and they don't listen to us, and they always diminish the value of design, but half the time design spends all of its time infighting anyways. How are we going to show that to them that's the right way to do when we cannot do it within ourselves? We need to work from a position of trust and seek to build trust within our team first, right? And we can do this by assuming positive intent and engaging others in a way that makes it easy for them to do the same. Right? Wait a minute. So you mean I want to work with this person in a way that makes it easy for them to assume that I have positive intent in my actions, that I have, in talking about trust, their best interest and the best interest of our team at heart. Make it easy for them to do that, and they will do the same for you, hopefully. And once we've established strong internal relationships with our teams, it's so much easier to then go to our partners and our cross-functional teams and say, hey, this is how we've been working. I would love to try to do this with you all, right? We've kind of piloted it with ourselves and see the benefits we're getting. Wouldn't it be cool if we agreed to kind of, as partner teams, work the same way? Because you know what's great? It's really awesome for me to stand up here and talk about all this, right? And then talk about how it's great to do this and design, and then go and the team's like, but you said to do all these things, but none of our partners' team work this way. They're not doing this work at all, and so it's very frustrating. So it's important to then take that step of establishing the framework for your team and then taking it to your partners and trying to get them in whatever ways possible to align. I know it's difficult. I know it's not always perfect. It's really goddamn messy a lot of the time. But every little step we make, each little win, is one step towards that more solidified relationship with our partners. So it's the same thing I just put before, right? But instead of our team, now it's with our partners. Work from a position of trust to build trust with our partners. Assume positive intent and make it easy for them to do the same. Level the playing field. Speaking of being precious, right? Find a common purpose in the work with the partners you're working with. Find out what it is, because you're not always going to see eye to eye, right? It's just not reality. So what are the things you can rally around and call back to when the times do get a little tough? That'll be able to unite the team despite some frustrating and at times even toxic environments, right? Unite under one mission. If you've got a vision for your team, talk to your partners. Try to find a way to get a mission that the organization can rally around, even if it's just a product development group. Because a lot of times we can't get the fun top-down stuff that we always want to guide us, so we have to create it bottom up. And so we do it with ourselves, then with our partners, and with the larger organization, and keep trying to push this way of working and thinking and supporting one another. This goes back to that being precious stuff, y'all. Be willing to step outside the norm to support success. Well, I do research this way. Well, guess what? We don't do it that way here. We don't even want you to talk to the customers. Well, I probably should find a way to get some intel then. And I might have to step out of my normal ways of doing things. Has anyone ever wanted you to work with them or tried to convince you of something, and they stand right here and they tell you, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, this is the way it is. Come do things the way I want them to be done. And you're like, but I have ideas about how it can be done. We can't be those people if we want our teams to be set up for success and we want our organizations to work together in a collaborative way that leads to us meeting our goals. Standing on one side of things very stubbornly, saying it's all your fault. I don't know why that sounds so familiar and so redundant lately, but that doesn't help. That actually takes a step backwards. And as leaders, and I've done this, so I can say this, everything I'm talking about here is probably from all the shit I've done wrong over time. We pattern that behavior for our teams. So it's not just us fracturing a relationship. We're now, even if it's unintended, supporting others and doing the same. So be willing to step outside of the norm to support success. I'm not going to read this quote because it's super damn wordy, but the gist of this is, it's time for us to start being really, really intentional with the impact of how we carry ourselves and what that does for other people. How I show up in meetings, how I show up in my engagements with you, how I respond to difficult situations, what I do when I'm pissed off, what I do when I'm happy. When I work with you on a daily basis or engage with you, the way I carry myself impacts you. And if there's a certain way that you get into an optimal mindset of working, I can derail that shit in a heartbeat if I come in with a stubborn, know-it-all, precious attitude in how I approach my work. It's up to us to take responsibility for the impact on setting up other people to do their best work. And if we start as leaders doing that, and then start talking to our teams more candidly in our one-on-ones, in our check-in times, about them working in that way, we can start to be seen as the people that I'm even not sure what design does, or to be honest, I don't even know what that odd-looking tattooed guy does all day at work, but you know what? When I work with that guy, I feel like I'm fucking killing it because he supports whatever I do. And even if he doesn't agree with me, he finds a way to make it work. Let's be those kind of people. That just by who we are, we impact the people around us in a positive way that helps them get their work done. And when we do that, our teams can then see that model and do the same. Back to the partner thing, right? Again, I'm talking about all the stuff. It's I'm sitting up here man, I'm so full of shit. Because this is super idealistic. And I feel like we're all going to go back to our organizations. And some of you right now may be thinking, but dude, you don't know where I work or who this partner is that I work with or this other thing. And I'm like, yeah, actually, I don't at all. I just get to stand up here and say this shit. You guys got to figure out how to do it, right? But the reality is that if we can start to find a way to build that shared accountability with the partner, and I will challenge you that it will probably be a little bit rough at times, find ways to do that. Because when we as leaders partner with other leaders, think about it. You have a design team that you want to execute these goals, and they have to partner with these other teams. Your job as a leader, definitely set the space for them to be successful. Now it's like turning a big chunk of your effort into working with the leaders of those other partner teams so that you can get a shared agreement in how we want to work together. That way, those people that your team members have to work with are willing to partner in the same way, or it's going to be a really uphill battle. And it doesn't always work, but if you can try to do that, you're removing a little bit less of that uphill climb or those barriers for your team. And that's another way that you can create a supportive environment for them to work in, where they feel like they're able to collaborate and communicate. One of the ways to do that is to do something, oops, I got to point it that way, is to create like a partnership charter, right? So this is basically, there's a lot of ways to do this. The gist of this is sitting with your partners and saying, hey, guess what? We need to accomplish this big goal here. What do you need from me as your partner? How do I need to show up for you so that you feel like you're set up to achieve that goal? And they list what that is. And then you do the same and say, hey, I would like, for me, I need you to engage me this way. I need you to show up to the meetings. I need you to do that with your fucking laptop down so I can actually have your attention for like 10 minutes. I need you to do this when I raise an issue with someone on your team. I just want you to hear me out. I'm not saying go do anything about it. Whatever that looks like. I'm just like throwing out examples, but whatever that looks like for you, find out what they need from you to be successful. Find out from them what you can do. Tell them what you need. Write that shit down. Sign it in, blood's a little aggressive, but find some nice casual way to agree on what that looks like and use it as a North Star of shared accountability. Because I guarantee there are going to be times when the work gets hard because the people are hard. And we're those people sometimes. But if we have something like this to refer back to, that can be the thing that can draw us back to like, okay, yeah, shit, you're right. Oh my gosh, I've been getting so focused on my work. I'm sorry. I just really want to see this thing through. That centers us and centers our conversations. Another way to do that is once you start to learn what that is, start putting it, if possible, and see if your partners will agree, into performance management. We're going to show up and work this way. This is something I've seen happen and grow over time at Capital One. When we are expected to carry ourselves a certain way, instead of just telling people over and over again that that's how we do it, it actually starts to become part of performance management. Were you a good partner? Instead of did you ship design, there's also were you a good partner? Did the way you interacted with people lead to them being able to do their work better? Think about making resources more easily available to learn this new way of working. Because guess what? This is a new way of working. I forget who it was on the panel where he was talking about like, I just started my career doing graphic design and was like just cranking stuff out and it was like cutthroat. Like the times are changing and we're understanding that if we can create environments for people to do their best work, we're going to see some phenomenal work shift and some really strong impact in the various industries in which we work. So don't just tell the teams to be a certain way and to act a certain way. Support them by giving them resources, conferences, articles. If you can bring speakers in, books, set up time, build mentorship programs, whatever that looks like for your organization, find a way to make the resources for how you want them to carry themselves easily available for them to do so, which kind of seems like common sense, which is pretty much most of what I'm talking about today. There's none of this is like brand new shit, you know? And then put it like explicitly like in the team mission. If there's things you want to see growth in your team members, put it in their development plans. Not to say like, hey, if you don't get this shit straight at your end, you're out. It's more like, hey, I'm making this a part of your development plan because I believe that this is going to help you do your best work. And guess what? I'm going to be there each step of the way to help you achieve that. Because a development plan from a manager or a leader to a team is not just like, hey, get better at these things, let's check in year end or mid-year. A development plan is like, hey, here's the things we've agreed on and discussed that are going to help you work in the way you want and progress in your career. And now it is my responsibility as your manager, even better put, leader, to find ways to help you get there. Which means that as leaders, we have to set aside dedicated time to think about what those types of resources are that we provide to our teams that help them with their growth and their development plans. I'll let that one sit for a minute, just in case I hadn't mentioned it already. This work is hard. People are hard. I had a friend one time, I was like so frustrated. about how shitty something was going at a previous job. And I said, man, this is just fucking hard, dude. He's like, yeah, I hear you, buddy. But you know, sometimes the work is so hard they actually pay you to do it. And I was like, yep, you're fired from being my friend forever. And in this company, there's no rehire policy. This is the part, right? We've talked about design in so many ways today, and we'll continue to, and we'll at the after event. Design is so much more than this. This isn't design. It's a fucking TV. These are screens. Design, as we heard earlier in the panel, is problem solving. It's thinking about the ways things are done. What is it Jared Spool always says? Design is the rendering of intent. I want something to be a certain way. The process of me getting it there in a way that's towards a positive outcome is the exercise of design over and over again through a cyclical process. So this is probably not going to work, everything I've told you, the first time. And if you do, yes, you just won the lottery. It's going to take iteration. Because I'm a firm believer that every single tool we talk about in the design process for building applications, services, and experiences for other people are actually the very same tools that we can use in designing how we relate and work with people in a management perspective to be successful. The number one thing you can do as a manager is do research on your team. Don't stalk them, don't be creepy. That's some weird HR shit. What I'm talking about here is learn about your team, learn about how they work. Learn about the things, ask them, hey, what are the things that like get you super pissed off when someone does them? For me, it's when they don't clear the last 4 seconds off the microwave and they leave the door open. I was, oh, for fuck's sake. I'm like, which one of my kids? I'm like, Google Home broadcast. This is on, you know? There's gonna be little things that your team's not gonna respond to well or that they respond to really well. And it's the same for your partners. But if you put your research hat on, and you go learn about them, and I forget who it was a little while ago, just said something about having inward empathy, right? What kind of people are if we only want to have empathy towards the people we're building for, but we don't show it towards the people we work with? There's a term for that. Oh, hypocrite, that's right. Sorry, it took me a minute to find that one. Be ready to be tired. This is exhausting work, y'all. People are exhausting. Be ready to give up. But I have found, not all the time, but a lot of times, right when you're at that brink where you're like, I cannot take this anymore, there's a breakthrough. And that is one of the most rewarding experiences to share with your team and one of the most coachable, teachable moments that you will have. Because a lot of this stuff is theory, but when that shit happens, that's real, and you get a moment with your team to discuss that. So starting to wrap up here, those who are poorly led, not challenged, or held to low standards will underperform. They will. By providing clear objectives for teams and setting guardrails for how they get there, we set them on the path for successful outcomes. With a shared vision, it becomes easier to increase team communication and collaboration. And this last one is so important, y'all. Like, I love it. Like, wanting to get up, baseball started today. I'm a diehard Dodgers fan. I've born and bred and bleed blue. I've only lived here 4 years. I'm still in California. And for fuck's sake, I have no way I'm rooting for the Mets or the Yankees. But incremental change is your friend. You cannot hit a home run every single time, right? That's why they only have like a home run derby once a year, because that shit's not realistic. Creating an environment for teams to be successful can be challenging. It may take time and investment in relationships. Not it may. If I could edit that slide, I would say it will. One more thing before I leave with this quote. I did use a sports analogy, so I apologize. So at the happy hour, open bar, I'm happy to buy all of you a drink. Don't ever let me live that shit down. That was like one of the worst things I've ever done. On the panel earlier, we heard about the idea of being a gardener. I heard that, and I was like, holy shit, I'm so set up. This is so well done. The second quote from Chris Fussell I want to share with you, from his book, One Mission. Leaders must change their role from that of an arbiter and a decision maker to that of a gardener. Setting the conditions for your team to grow and be successful and nurturing them on their journey. Who here has the Harry Potter wizardry to be able to keep a plant alive for more than a week? Fuck, praise hands emoji for you all. I kill cactus. I don't know how it happens. But if you've ever tried to have a garden or keep a plant alive, you just can't force it. It's all about creating the environment so it grows and then leads to more growth. And that's our role. So figure out however the hell you're going to build a human-centered green thumb and join me on this journey of empowering our teams by investing in them and investing in the space that will nurture them and grow them to do their best work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron.